In the game, I was a master of seduction, my chat window overflowing with sweet nothings. In reality, I was getting chewed out by my Ice Queen boss, Catherine Pierce, shaking in my boots. Until the company retreat, when our gaming IDs were exposed. Catherine's cool. Chris' voice came through my headphones. Babe? I froze on the spot. After that, the harder she pushed me at the office, the more her online persona, Cherry Bomb, would lay on the charm after hours. Working late, Catherine locked her office door, a sly smile playing on her lips. Your babe wants you all to herself. My fingers danced across the mechanical keyboard, a staccato rhythm so fast it created its own breeze. A triumphant, goofy grin was plastered across my face. On screen, a dazzling explosion of skill effects bloomed, perfectly ensnaring a healer-class female player named Cherry Bomb. My character was a flashy archer named Shadow Strike. The voice channel erupted into chaos. Teammate 1 yelled, his voice cracking, "Nice! Pinned her! Heals! I need heals!" Teammate 2 was spitting curses. "Damn it! The enemy assassin is on me again! Shadow, cover me!" Cherry Bomb didn't say a word, but a milky white pillar of light instantly descended on me, stabilizing my health bar, which had been shredded down to a sliver. She always noticed me first. I quickly typed in the party chat, "You're the best, healer." That last move was epic. As long as you're here, Cherry, we can't lose. A system notification immediately popped up. Shadow Strike has sent Cherry Bomb 999 virtual roses. A spectacular shower of roses rained down over our characters' heads. A second later, a private message window from Cherry Bomb blinked open. "Shadow," she sent, followed by a blushing emoji. "Wasting your money again." I grinned, my fingers flying even faster. "It's my sworn duty to spoil my girl. You just saved my life. I have no way to repay you, unless I pledge my undying devotion." I followed it up with a slick, puppy dog eyes emoji. She sent back a playful whack-a-mole emoji. "Jerk, always with the sweet talk. You're a beast in the game, but are you this smooth in real life?" A knot of anxiety tightened in my stomach. Real life. An image of a beautiful, stone-cold poker face flashed in my mind, along with the sharp, icy click-clack of high heels on the polished office floor. I quickly typed, laying the sugar on thick. "Of course, my heart belongs to my one and only babe. It's just that real life is so damn busy. Thank God I have you, my little cherry." She was quiet for a few seconds, as if she was blushing. Then, a voice chat invitation appeared. I snatched my headset and slapped it on, hitting accept. A deliberately soft, slightly shy female voice whispered through the headphones, "Shadow." It sent a shiver down my spine. I lowered my own voice, trying to sound more magnetic. "Right here, babe. Miss me?" She let out a soft, the sound trailing off with a slight upward lilt. It was like a kitten's paw, gently scratching the softest part of my heart. "You were really good today." That ultimate ability was perfectly timed. I was practically floating. "Damn right. You know who your man is. I'm here to protect you. Anyone touches my cherry, and I'll turn them into a pincushion." A low laugh trickled through the headset, so soft I could feel the breath on the mic. It made my skin tingle. We flirted like that for a while. Her voice was soft and sweet, tinged with a shyness that was barely perceptible. Every time I called her babe or sweetheart, she'd offer a half-hearted protest. Who's your babe? Don't call me that." But her tone was pure catnip, a playful resistance that sent my confidence through the roof. I felt like some kind of legendary archer of romance. As we were chatting, she suddenly asked, "Shadow, what do you do for work?" She'd asked a few times before. I always dodged it. I could hardly tell her I was a miserable programmer who got ripped a new one by his boss on a daily basis. It would totally kill the vibe. Ahem. I clear my throat, offering a half-truth. "I'm in tech. It's pretty complicated. What about you, my little cherry?" She paused for a moment. Then she said quietly, "It's really busy. I'm in a place with very high standards." I could almost hear a trace of exhaustion in her voice. A pang of sympathy hit me, and my tone softened. "Well, you have to take care of yourself, babe. Get some sleep. You're my treasure, you know." She hummed, her voice sounding a little sweeter. "Shadow's the best." Oh, her voice suddenly brightened with anticipation. "Tomorrow at 8 p.m., the new raid opens. Want to do it together? You know it, I declared, puffing out my chest. To the ends of the earth, through fire and brimstone, I'll follow my girl anywhere. She laughed. Okay, wait for me. The call ended. I took off my headset, savoring the soft, sweet echo of her wait for me. I felt fantastic. The air itself seemed to smell like strawberries. I casually glanced at my phone. 1:30 a.m. Holy crap. The goofy grin on my face froze solid. A cold sweat broke out across my forehead. A chill shot up from my feet to the crown of my head. I suddenly remembered that tomorrow, no, in just a few hours at 9 in the morning, I had a project presentation, directly to the Ice Queen herself. I'm screwed. I'm so screwed. The thrill of my online conquest was instantly replaced by a deep, chilling dread. I scrambled to shut down my PC, fumble my way to bed, and try to squeeze in 2 hours of sleep. I closed my eyes. My mind was a chaotic mess, flashing between Cherry Bomb's sweet, soft shadow and the ice-cold poker face of Catherine Pierce, my director. As I drifted into a restless sleep, one thought remained terrifyingly clear. Tomorrow, I was dead meat. My head had barely hit the pillow when my alarm started screaming like a banshee. 6 hours ago, I was a god of the battlefield, basking in the sweet nothings of my online girl. Now, I was just an empty husk, my brain buzzing with exhaustion. I felt like a fish gasping for air on a riverbank, flopping over to slap the alarm off. I grabbed my foe, a cold, hard brick next to my bed. The screen's light stabbed at my eyes. I dragged myself out of bed. Staring into the bathroom mirror, I nearly jumped out of my skin. The bags under my eyes were practically sitting on my cheekbones, and my face had a sickly, sallow tint. I looked like some unlucky schmuck who'd had his life force drained by a succubus. I splashed my face with cold water. It helped a little, but my eyelids still felt like they were lined with lead. I forced myself to pick out the least wrinkled thing in my closet, a blue and white striped button-down and a pair of black chinos that were passably professional. This was the peak of my corporate wardrobe. What can I say? We're coders. All-nighters are part of the job description. Comfort is king. As long as it doesn't have holes in it, it's good enough for the office. The guy in the mirror had a bird's nest for hair. His eyes were glazed over, and his shirt was sloppily half-tucked. I sighed. No point in fighting it. Showing up to face Catherine looking like this was basically suicide. But today was a battle I couldn't avoid. The project was at a critical juncture, and this presentation was huge. The back-end optimization for our game, Ethereum Chronicles, had been stuck in a bottleneck for over 2 weeks. Catherine was personally overseeing it and had given us a hard deadline. The entire back-end team was wound tighter than a guitar string. The pressure was immense. Just thinking about Catherine's face. She was genuinely beautiful. Sharp, defined features, pale skin, a straight nose, and lips that were naturally a soft pink. But her aura could freeze you solid. Her eyes were her most lethal weapon. They were a gorgeous almond shape, but completely devoid of warmth. When she looked at you, it felt like a surgeon's scalpel, ready to slice you open and analyze your insides. And then there was the sound of her heels. Click, clack. The sound was crisp, the rhythm precise. Whenever it echoed down the otherwise silent hallway, it was a guaranteed nightmare for every tech nerd in the vicinity. She walked like she was sounding a death knell. She was more terrifying than any final boss in any game. Last week, Mark from our team had a minor bug in his core algorithm that QA missed. The game crashed during a live event. For 10 minutes, Mark was summoned to her office. Through the thick glass wall, we all watched the horror show unfold. Catherine didn't slam the table. She didn't yell. She just sat there, her back perfectly straight. Her fingers tapped lightly on the desk. Once, twice. Her eyes were calm as she stared at Mark. The look on Mark's face was worse than if he'd been publicly flogged. His face cycled through red, white, and a sickly green. When he finally came out, he looked like his skeleton had been removed. His legs were jelly. He had to lean on the wall just to walk away. Ever since, Mark takes a detour if he even thinks she's nearby. The trauma was real. We secretly nicknamed her the Ice Queen. It fit perfectly, and today, it was my turn to face her. I clutched my thermos, filled with coffee so strong it was practically sludge. It was the only thing keeping me upright. Walking into our work area, I was hit by the familiar smell of battle. Programmers sat in their cubicles, staring at their screens with either vacant or manic eyes. The relentless clatter of keyboards filled the air. The atmosphere was thick with the scent of energy drinks and the sweat of sleep-deprived men, and an undercurrent of pure anxiety. Dave, I need the stress test data from that API last night. This data's wrong. Mark, where's that optimization you were talking about? Chris, has the client-side team given us feedback yet? The low hum of discussion buzzed in my ears. I made my way to the section for the Ethereum Chronicles back-end team. The mood here was even heavier. I found my corner cubicle, set down my thermos, and turned on my computer. My fingers felt stiff. On the screen was the final slide of the presentation I was about to give, feasibility and benefit analysis, written in bold, red font. It was a glaring reminder. If I get past Catherine, everything's fine. If I don't, my future looked bleak. My colleague Dave leaned over from the next cubicle, a slice of cold pizza hanging from his mouth. He whispered, "Jason, you here?" "What?" I clicked open the presentation, wanted to do one last check. The Ice Queen is in a worse mood than usual today. Dave's eyes were wide with a conspiratorial gleam. The intern from admin went in to deliver some documents this morning, said Catherine's face was so dark you could wring storm clouds out of it. My heart skipped a beat. My hand nearly slipped off the mouse. What? No clue. Dave lowered his voice even more. But according to her assistant, Lisa, he made a throat-slitting gesture. The partnership meeting with Infinity Ward yesterday, apparently a major clause fell through. Catherine went ballistic, tore into two of their directors so bad they almost quit on the spot. I nearly spit a mouthful of coffee onto my monitor. I started coughing, a cold sweat breaking out on my back. The lead director at Infinity Ward was a notorious corporate shark, and she made it back down. What kind of apocalyptic mood would she be in today? I felt like a member of a bomb squad, holding a live explosive, and the fuse was already lit. A chill crawled up my spine. I instinctively tightened my grip on my thermos, as if it were my only lifeline. Dave patted my shoulder sympathetically before slinking back to his own desk. I stared back at my screen. The analytical charts, the performance metrics I was once so proud of, now they seemed to float before my eyes, as if they would disintegrate into dust under Catherine's icy gaze. My stomach churned. Not even the bitter coffee could quell the rising tide of panic. Catherine, today, please have mercy on my soul. My fingers felt like they were frozen solid. I reached out, hand trembling, trying to grab a black marker from the pen holder on my desk. It was only a foot away, but it felt like I was trying to cross a bottomless chasm. Standing beside me was Chris, the guy from the next cubicle over. He had a habit of being nosy. He saw me reaching for the pen and immediately leaned in. A wave of stale cigarette smoke and all-nighter funk washed over me. "Hey, Jason," he whispered, his voice laced with a secretive excitement. "Did you hear about what happened at the morning stand-up?" My fingers had just brushed against the cool plastic of the marker. I froze. My heart was in my throat. "Catherine, what? What did she do?" I asked. My voice was dry and raspy. "Man," Chris slapped his thigh, a little too loudly. A few nervous glances shot over from the surrounding cubicles. He realized his mistake, shrinking back and lowering his voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "You were over in QA dealing with that test rollback, right? Right after you left, Catherine came over to our section." He recounted the story with dramatic flair. "Kevin, that new guy, he walked right into the line of fire. Kevin was our team's API optimization engineer. A decent guy. He was in charge of integrating the new data. This morning, Lisa was on him about the timeline, right behind Catherine. Kevin was in the middle of sorting through last night's logs. Probably wanted to get it done quick, so he just said." Chris mimicked Kevin's rushed, slightly flippant tone. "Got it, Lisa. I'm on it. Almost done." My scalp tingled. Oh no. No. I knew Catherine's triggers all too well. The thing she hated most. Vagueness, imprecision, and inefficiency. She especially despised it when people gave random ETAs without knowing the full picture. And then, Chris's voice rose with residual fear. Catherine stopped dead in her tracks. The sound of her heels just stopped. Click. The whole floor went dead silent. He swallowed hard. Then, Catherine just turned around. Her face was colder than a polar ice cap. She walked over to Kevin's desk. Chris pointed at his own cubicle wall. About as close as I am to you now. She didn't yell. She just stood there, one hand resting on the partition, and tapped her knuckles on it twice. Tap, tap. Didn't say a word, but nobody dared to even breathe. Kevin's face, man, it went completely white, like a sheet of paper. After what felt like 2 minutes, Catherine finally spoke. Her voice wasn't loud. Lisa is responsible for tracking progress on requirement integration. You're responsible for ensuring API stability and timely output. Please ensure you stick to your respective duties. Don't make decisions for others, and don't make promises to me on behalf of your colleagues. Those words, Chris clicked his tongue, felt like they were dripping with icicles. Kevin's still in the conference room, trying to catch up. He hasn't even had lunch, probably eating a sandwich over his keyboard right now. Lisa just walked by a minute ago, still looking green. As I listened, I felt like a block of ice had been shoved into my stomach. A frigid chill radiated from my core. Catherine, stick to your duties. Line probably echoed in the hallway for hours. Even worse, my desk was still littered with the presentation slides I'd stayed up half the night to finish. Right now, the edges of the papers were curled from me, unconsciously rolling them. Wrinkled, just like my mood. Just then my phone's screen up on my desk buzzed. The screen lit up. The familiar notification sound from my gaming chat app, not the corporate Slack, pinged, the custom sound I had set, exclusively for Cherry Bomb. I shot a quick glance at it. Sure enough, Cherry Bomb's avatar was blinking. A Discord message. My heart did a painful lurch. A wave of sweetness crashed into a tidal wave of stress. Caught in this bizarre crossfire of emotions, I clumsily reached out with my other hand and hit the lock button. The screen went black. Chris was still rambling on about the Ice Queen's morning rampage, but his voice was fading into the background. My ears were filled with a dull roar. A profound, indescribable sense of absurdity washed over me. On one hand, in my phone, was the sweet, shy babe who needed me to shower her with compliments. On the other hand, just a few yards away, in that glass office radiating cold air, was the Ice Queen who could freeze an entire room with a single look. Right now, the two of them were blended together in my mind like a chaotic, boiling stew. A neurotic thought even crossed my mind. If Cherry Bomb knew that her online hero was, in reality, a spineless grunt cowering before a female tyrant, what would she think? She'd probably be completely disillusioned, right? A small part of my masculine pride twinged with pain, but mostly I just felt guilty. I absolutely cannot let Catherine find out I'm goofing off in a game. That would be a death sentence on 2 counts. I took a deep breath. The air smelled of keyboards, coffee, and Chris's cigarettes. Cold and stale. The frosted glass door to Catherine's office was shut tight, like the gate between life and death. It separated 2 worlds. And for now, it separated my heart, which felt like it was about to be torn in 2. No, I had to stop overthinking. Focus. I just need to survive this presentation. I looked back at my monitor. The big, red title on the PPT file stung my eyes. Feasibility and benefit analysis. The technical concepts, the charts I was so proud of. How long would they last under Catherine's piercing gaze? My mouth felt dry. My throat was raw, as if it had been scraped with sandpaper. Chris's monologue finally ended. He seemed to sense the heavy atmosphere. He gave me a look of pity, patted my shoulder silently, and retreated to his cubicle. The office was quiet again, save for the clatter of keyboards and the gurgle of the water cooler. I stared at my screen, trying to get in the zone, but my brain felt like it was stuffed with cotton. It just wouldn't work. Click, clack, click. A clear, rhythmic, and cold sound of high heels on the floor. Steady, unrushed, coming closer, in the dead quiet office space. It was like the tolling of a funeral bell. Every keyboard in every cubicle stopped for a split second. My heart stopped with them. My blood seemed to freeze in my veins. I was paralyzed. Even my fingers, resting on the mouse, wouldn't move. Click, clack. The sound stopped right outside my cubicle partition. A tall, slender figure, radiating an aura of cold, stood beside me. The sense of pressure was so tangible it felt like it was sucking the air out of the room. I slowly, stiffly turned my neck and looked up, straight into a pair of deep, black eyes completely devoid of warmth. Catherine Pierce was standing right next to my desk. She was holding a slim, black notebook, Her other hand hung naturally at her side. Her nails were neatly manicured. Today, she was wearing an impeccably tailored gray pantsuit. Her hair was pulled back in a severe bun. It only accentuated the sharp, cold line of her jaw. Her face was a blank mask, but the invisible pressure was already making my back break out in a cold sweat. She didn't look at the presentation on my screen. Her gaze was like an ice pick aimed directly at my face. Jason, her cool voice cut through the silence. Not loud, not soft, almost calm, but every word felt like it was laced with frost. 10 minutes. Bring the final, validated data from the Heiken currency stress test and your new resource utilization optimization plan to my office for a full demonstration. I want to see tangible efficiency gains and a clear roadmap for implementation, not the vague version we discussed last week. She paused briefly. Her eyes, like precision scanners, lingered for a moment on my pale, sleep-deprived face. If you feel you need more time to prepare. Her tone was flat, without a hint of emotion. You can always hand it over to Mark to finish. Boom! It felt like a sledgehammer had just hit my brain. Hand it over. That would mean the last month of sleepless nights was for nothing. More importantly, everyone knew Mark was a corporate old-timer. If the plan went to him, he'd take most of the credit. I straightened my back almost instantly. The words flew out of my mouth. I can do it, Catherine. I'm ready now. My voice was a little too loud. The nearby colleagues seemed to hold their breath. Catherine's expression didn't change. She just gave a slight, almost imperceptible nod. The line of her jaw was hard. Good. One word. Light as a feather. But it landed in my ears with the weight of an anvil. Her gaze finally moved from my face to the wrinkled, curled-up printouts of my presentation on the desk. Her eyes lingered for about a second. No comment. She just calmly looked away and turned. Click, clack, click. The sound of her heels started up again. She was walking towards her assistant, Lisa, probably to give some instructions. It wasn't until her formidable figure disappeared from my line of sight that the terrifying, oppressive pressure began to lift. My body went limp. I almost collapsed on my desk. The back of my shirt was plastered to my spine, soaked with cold sweat. My back, which had been ramrod straight just moments ago, now felt weak. I gripped the edge of my desk, gasping for air, like a drowning man pulled from the water. The tension of the last few minutes was replaced by a wave of exhaustion. Chris peeked over his partition. He gave me a complex look, full of pity and a good luck, you'll need it expression. His lips moved silently. Dude, you got this. I looked at my screen, a countdown timer in the corner of my presentation software. 8 minutes and 47 seconds left. I took a deep breath. No time to be weak. I grabbed the stack of papers I had crumpled and pressed them flat on my desk with all my strength. As if by smoothing out the wrinkles, I could also flatten the overwhelming fear in my heart. My knuckles turned white. My gaze refocused on the screen. My pupils filled with dense data and charts. My brain kicked into high gear. The dizziness from lack of sleep was, miraculously, driven away by the immense pressure. Adrenaline was pumping through my veins. There was only one thought left in my mind. I'm all in. I have to save my proposal. And I have to save my dignity in front of Cherry Bomb. 10 minutes. Exactly. I was sitting in a stiff, cold leather visitor's chair in Catherine Pierce's office. I felt like a fish on a cutting board. The massive black walnut desk in front of me was polished to a mirror shine. On its surface sat only a closed MacBook Pro, a black and gold thermos, and a minimalist acrylic business card holder. Empty. Cold. Hard. It was unervingly clean. A faint, almost imperceptible scent hung in the air, like pine needles after a snowfall. It was crisp and cool, a world away from the chaotic, stale air of my cubicle. Catherine sat behind the desk. She was leaning back slightly in her chair, but her posture was anything but relaxed. Her spine was ramrod straight. She held an iPad mini, the screen displaying thumbnails of my presentation slides. Her finger would occasionally swipe across the screen. An external monitor sat in front of me, mirroring my presentation. Begin, Catherine said. Not a single wasted word. She didn't even look up. Her eyes remained fixed on her iPad. Her tone was devoid of emotion, as cold as a system notification. Right, Catherine. I heard my own voice a little hoarse. I cleared my throat. Leaning forward, I clicked to the first slide. Steeling myself, I recited the opening lines I had practiced 100 times. My pace was steady enough, but my fingers were unconsciously picking at the edge of my laptop. Regarding the bottleneck issues identified during the high concurrency stress testing phase of the previous version, I'd only gotten 2 sentences out. Hold on. Catherine cut me off. My heart jumped. She looked up. Her almond-shaped eyes narrowed slightly. Her dark pupils reflected the cold light of the screen, like a frozen lake. The screenshot of the initial stress test results in the documentation, and this peak comparison chart in your presentation. Her gaze shifted from her iPad to my monitor, locking onto an inconspicuous pressure fluctuation line graph in the top left corner. The recorded peak was 153,000 QPS, with severe fluctuations, dropping as low as 70,000. This chart you're showing me has a peak of 153,000 and a low of 110,000. That's a 40,000 difference. Her tone was as flat as if she were commenting on the weather. Not even a hint of inflection. But her words were like poisoned needles, stabbing directly into my frayed nerves. I didn't. I started to explain that it was a screenshot from a different time period. Catherine leaned forward slightly. Her gaze was like a surgical lamp, shining directly on me. Did you delete the data from the trough periods to artificially flatten the curve? She looked me straight in the eye. Her tone hadn't changed, but it carried an invisible weight that was making it hard for me to breathe. No, Catherine. I rushed to explain. My voice was frantic. These are from different points in time. The first one was from the very beginning of the end-to-end stress test. This second one was after we adjusted the buffer and connection pool strategies, a typical time slice selected from a new peak period. I pointed at the screen, trying to be as clear as possible. The initial abnormal peaks and subsequent fluctuations are normal during system warm-up and configuration optimization. Catherine listened to my explanation, but her expression didn't soften. Her eyebrow lifted almost imperceptibly, as if my answer was slightly annoying. Fine, she nodded, a signal to continue. That single, airy word, devoid of any warmth, caused another layer of cold sweat to break out on my back. The rest of the presentation was a gauntlet. Every piece of data, every technical detail, every potential risk hidden behind every chart. She unearthed them all with surgical precision and demanded an explanation. Every interruption was accompanied by a calm but incredibly sharp question. What, specifically, is your mitigation strategy for Redis cache penetration risk? What is the basis for your circuit breaker activation threshold? This estimated 30% cost reduction, what's the sample size? What's the time frame of the supporting data? Regarding node scalability, what is the specific service response time required under the current cloud architecture? The questions came one after another. Fast, precise, brutal, like a volley of ice-tipped arrows. Every one of them aimed for a vital point. I sat in that chair, feeling the strength drain from my body. The chair was hard and cold, which only made me feel hotter. My face was surely flushed, but mostly I just felt dizzy, like all the blood had rushed to my head. The back of my shirt was plastered to my skin, damp, soaked with cold sweat. Every time she interrupted me, my heart would seize up. My fingertips were cold. My palm, gripping the mouse, was slick with sweat. I misclicked several times. My explanations became increasingly disjointed. My brain felt like scrambled eggs. I was running on pure instinct, pulling from my accumulated knowledge and whatever scraps of quick thinking I could muster. Several times, when faced with her questions about in-depth data analysis, I could feel the muscles of my face tighten. Breathing became difficult. My voice grew quieter. I was almost panting. The AC in the office was cranked high. The cold air blew on my sweat-soaked back, making me shiver. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end, but I felt like I was being roasted over a fire, trapped between ice and flames. Catherine remained expressionless the whole time. She would occasionally nod. She held a black metal stylus and would sometimes tap it on her iPad screen, as if she were taking notes. The faint tap of the stylus on the glass sounded like a countdown timer for my execution. Agony. A long, drawn-out agony. Finally, the presentation was nearing its end. I looked at the final summary slide on the screen, at the large green upward trending arrow, and the bold text, projected efficiency gain 40%. I was about to deliver my closing remarks. I opened my mouth, but before I could make a sound, Jason, Catherine's voice cut in again, a little lower this time, like an echo in a vast, empty ice cave. I instinctively sat up straighter, held my breath, and looked at her, awaiting my sentence. She put down her iPad, folded her hands. Her elbows rested naturally on the desk. Her gaze fell back on my face. Still the same placid, emotionless eyes. But I don't know why. Being watched by her like this made me 100 times more nervous than when she was firing questions at me. My heart was pounding so hard my ears were ringing. The overall technical direction and concept, she began. Her voice was calm, her words articulate. Every syllable landed on my taut nerves. Show some forward thinking. Your core assessment of the existing bottleneck is, for the most part, accurate. My heart leaped. A tiny spark of hope flickered to life in the frozen wasteland of my anxiety. But before that flicker could grow into a flame, Catherine's next sentence came crashing down. However, she emphasized the word slightly, and that single word instantly extinguished my nascent hope. The chill on my back deepened. The design of the specific implementation path is crude. Your coverage of risk points is incomplete. The fault tolerance and redundancy mechanisms at critical nodes. She paused. Her gaze swept over my face, like a cold feather, are virtually non-existent, especially on the key issue of elastic cost control. Her brow furrowed slightly, a tiny, almost imperceptible expression, but it made my heart sink to the bottom of my stomach. The 30% savings you mentioned, is that based on an ideal model, or do you have specific dynamic budget constraints based on our company's actual peak and off-peak business traffic cycles? I said nothing. My face burned. My throat was tight. An ideal model. She was right. Our team had run countless simulations. But when it came to the real-world dollars and cents, our planning was admittedly crude. Catherine shook her head slightly, as if she had expected as much. A competent implementation proposal. She leaned forward again. The invisible pressure intensified, like a mountain slowly bearing down on me. Should not only solve the immediate bottleneck, it must also clearly anticipate and mitigate a potential future domino effect. It needs to include the potential chain reactions of each technical decision on overall business continuity and the corresponding countermeasures. Her voice was clear and cold, instead of relying solely on an upward arrow and a 40% figure to make your case. She spoke slowly, almost deliberately. Every word was a hammer blow to the core of my proposal. The proposal I had been so proud of. I felt like shattered glass. The cracks in my fragile confidence spread. Finally, she leaned back in her chair. Her gaze landed on my face, sharp enough to pierce bone. She delivered her final, merciless verdict. The overall concept is approved. She looked at me. I had just started to feel a sliver of relief when she continued, but the execution plan needs to be redone. The level of detail is extremely poor. There are too many holes. This level of crudeness is nowhere near ready for implementation. I'm giving you one day. Tomorrow, at 5 p.m., bring me the revised, complete proposal with all the details and vulnerabilities addressed. If it's still at this level of completion. She paused. The meaning in her eyes was unmistakable. She didn't need to say the rest. Her cold gaze said it all. You may go. Catherine looked away from me. Her attention shifted to another document open on her desk. She had issued her command. Her tone had returned to the flat, emotionless coldness from the beginning, as if she were dismissing something utterly unimportant. It was over. I stiffly rose from the cold chair. My body felt like it was filled with lead. My movements were slow. My throat was dry. I couldn't say a word. Even a simple "okay, Catherine" was stuck in my throat. I silently packed up my laptop, closed the lid, and clutched it to my chest, as if it were my last source of support. Then I turned, and with heavy steps, walked towards the frosted glass door. It was only a few steps, but it felt like I was walking through a field of thorns. My fingertips touched the cold metal doorknob. A numb chill spread through my hand. I turned it, pulled the door open. The bustling sounds and warm air of the office rushed in to meet me. The smell of coffee, the low murmur of voices, the clatter of keyboards. My colleagues, heads down, working. It was like another world. The last hour had been like a cruel vacuum. It wasn't until I stepped out of that office and stood in the main work area that the suffocating, icy pressure finally began to dissipate. I leaned against the glass partition outside her office, still clutching my laptop. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass and took a deep, shuddering breath. It felt like my lungs were getting oxygen for the first time. The back of my shirt was completely soaked, clinging to my skin, cold, but my face was still burning. The heat spread to my ears. It felt like I had been slapped. A wave of humiliation mixed with failure and resentment. It was like a dull knife twisting in my gut. Catherine's words replayed in my head. The level of detail is extremely poor. There are too many holes. This level of crudeness is nowhere near ready for implementation. Every sentence was a blatant rejection. I had pulled so many all-nighters, lost so much hair, read so many documents, ran so many simulations, and in her eyes, it was all worthless. A huge sense of frustration and defiance churned inside me. But it was mixed with a sliver of undeniable logic. She wasn't wrong. My proposal had overlooked a few key real-world constraints. That realization made it even worse. A double blow. My morale hit rock bottom. Dragging my heavy feet, I trudged back to my corner cubicle. Chris looked up, saw the look on my face. He opened his mouth to say something, but then closed it. He just gently patted my shoulder. No words were needed. I dropped my laptop onto the desk with a thud, pulled out my chair, and collapsed into it. I felt like all the bones had been removed from my body. Fatigue washed over me like a tidal wave. It wasn't just physical exhaustion. It was mental. I stared at the proposal file on my screen, the one that had just been torn to shreds. It felt like I was staring at my own pillar of shame. Frustrated, angry, frustrated because all my hard work had been dismissed as worthless. Angry, mostly at myself. How could I have missed those key points, and now I had to redo it all under immense pressure? This was going to kill me. Just as I was trapped in this internal inferno, on the verge of suffocating from the low pressure, my phone in my pocket vibrated again, a persistent, gentle buzz. BZT, that familiar rhythm. My custom notification. It was Cherry Bomb. 5. My phone continued its stubborn buzzing in my pocket, like a trapped insect. BZT. In the dead silence of my workspace, the sound was jarring. Even Dave couldn't help but glance over. I took a deep, ragged breath. My chest felt tight with frustration. I pulled out my phone. The screen was lit up. Of course. It was Cherry Bomb. She had sent several messages on Discord, each one more urgent than the last. The latest one read, "Shadow, are you busy? How did the presentation go? I bet you killed it, right?" Followed by a peeking cat emoji. I stared at the double question marks and the little cat cautiously peeking over a wall. My mind instantly flashed back to the torture session I'd just endured. Catherine's blank, merciless face. The cold tap of her stylus on her iPad. And her final judgment that had sent me straight to corporate hell. Then I looked back at the screen, at the message full of affection and high expectations. The overwhelming sense of absurdity hit me again. The presentation, did it go well? You killed it. I let out a bitter, silent laugh. This was like being haunted by two different ghosts at the same time. One of them was grinding me into dust in the real world. The other was worshiping me like a hero in the virtual one. I clenched my jaw. No, I can't let Cherry Bomb know how pathetic I am right now. A man's got to have some pride. I had to switch into smooth talker mode. Now, my fingers felt stiff. My brain was still a tangled mess from the recent ordeal. I swiped the cool glass of the screen, opened the chat, and started typing. I tried to take all the humiliation I just suffered, crush into a fine powder, coated in a thick layer of sugar, and force it back down. "Babe, I'm out. Just finished. Of course it went well. You know who you're talking to. Those technical hurdles? Piece of cake. The optimization plan got approved on the spot. The boss even said I had some great ideas. Smug. JPG. My finger hovered for a second. A pang of guilt. The boss. Catherine. Praised me. Remembering her order to redo it, I felt an invisible hand slap me across the face. Gritting my teeth, I added another line. Just gotta iron out a few more details. No, I couldn't make it sound too easy. A little sweet suffering would make it more believable. I quickly added a sticker of a dog passed out from exhaustion. Sent. Then I stared at the screen, waiting. like a defendant awaiting a verdict. My heart was pounding. I was more nervous now than when I was getting grilled by the Ice Queen. Soon, the three little dots indicating she was typing appeared at the top of the chat. They vanished, reappeared, vanished again, reappeared. I could picture her on the other end, carefully choosing her words. Finally, the message popped up. cat_kisses. JPG. You worked so hard, Shadow. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. My shoulders relaxed a fraction. Then another message. I knew you were the best. Followed by a huge smiley face. The boss was right to praise you. Proud __ flexing. JPG. I looked at the little flexing cat. My mind involuntarily conjured an image of Catherine's ice-cold face. A face that could never, ever be associated with the word proud. The sheer contrast sent a jolt through my brain. I felt a lump in my throat. It was getting hard to breathe. I took a deep breath, forcing the terrifying image out of my head. I had to remind myself, that's the Ice Queen. This is my sweet girl. They are not the same. Cherry Bomb was still typing. Her tone grew excited. So, does that mean you can relax a little now, Shadow? Tonight, the raid. I'll be waiting for you at 8 sharp. I even crafted you some new attack buff potions. Beneath the text was a screenshot from the game. A female healer in a pink dress, with the name Cherry Bomb floating above her head, stood in front of the in-game auction house. Next to her hovered the icons of several newly crafted potions, shimmering with special effects. These will make the big bosses much easier. I looked at the picture. A genuine warmth finally started to seep into my frozen heart, like dipping frostbitten hands into warm water. It melted away some of the cold despair. Cherry was always so thoughtful. In the game and in our chats. Always looking out for me, while I was getting my ass handed to me in the real world. This was the only place I could reclaim a tiny, fragile piece of my male pride. My fingers were still trembling slightly from stress. I pressed them to the screen and typed, trying to make my words sound energetic. Babe, you're amazing. Those potions look seriously OP. Get ready to be carried tonight. Just you wait, sweetheart. I'm going to turn all those arrogant world bosses into my personal loot piñatas. Cracking _knuckles. GIF. For emphasis, I even sent a voice message. I intentionally lowered my voice, using the magnetic, flirty tone I reserved for the game. Wait for me tonight, babe. I'm going to show you what a real master archer can do. A deliberate, low, and seductive murmur. Message sent. I leaned back in my chair. Only then did I realize. The hand I'd been typing with. The fingertips were ice cold, but at least the crushing weight in my chest had lessened. On the screen, Cherry Bomb immediately sent back a sticker of a cat rolling on the floor. Okay, cat_rolling. GIF, I'll wait for you. Followed by a small, system-generated shy face emoji. The conversation ended. I put down my phone. My heart was still racing. Partly from the anxiety of keeping up the lie. Partly from the infectious excitement of her anticipation. I looked up on my computer monitor. The presentation that needed to be redone, the one that Catherine had just ripped to shreds, was still open. The bright red arrow against the stark white background was glaring. The weight of reality came crashing back down. The fragile, sweet bubble I had just inflated instantly popped. My chest felt heavy, like it was filled with stones. It was hard to breathe. I ran my hand through my hair in frustration. My scalp, tender from lack of sleep, ached. I looked back at the presentation. Every detail, now, seemed to be mocking me. The boss praised me. Yeah, right. If I couldn't deliver a proposal that met the Ice Queen standards by 5 p.m. tomorrow, I'd probably be joining Kevin in the conference room, eating my dinner out of a sad takeout box. And it would definitely be in the soundproof one. I closed my eyes, forced myself to calm down. I had to get back to work. Now, revise, redo, forget about sleeping tonight. Even the raid would have to be a quick one. My eyes snapped open, a fierce determination in them. My hand closed around the mouse again. I opened another folder. Inside was the supplementary material for the proposal that I had started last night. The file name was Grim. Feasibility Proposal Addendum V2. 0. Self-Revision Survival Edition. Reality wasn't a game. You could wipe in a raid and try again. If I screwed up this revision, I could lose my job. The real-life final boss, Catherine Pierce, was a hell of a lot harder to beat than any boss in a game. 6. The clock ticked on. The office was a symphony of keyboard clatter. The overhead fluorescent lights were glaringly bright. I cranked up my screen's brightness, staring at the dense analytical charts and database query reports. My eyes were so dry they felt like they'd been scrubbed with sandpaper. A dull throb started in my temples. The tension in my head was a tightly wound spring, ready to snap at any moment. The frosted glass door to Catherine's office remained shut. Occasionally, someone would go in or come out. Without exception, they all looked grim and walked with heavy steps. The air was thick with an invisible, acrid smoke, oppressive and suffocating. The time in the bottom right corner of my screen read 7:27 p.m. Only 33 minutes until my raid with Cherry Bomb. But this damn Survival Edition proposal was only half finished. I was stuck on a critical dynamic cost algorithm simulation. I just couldn't find a balance point that was both economical and secure. Shit, I muttered under my breath. I grabbed a handful of my hair, which had become particularly brittle from all the late nights, and yanked, trying to use the small sting of pain to jolt my numb brain back to life. It didn't work. The more I rushed, the blanker my mind became. Catherine's words, virtually non-existent elastic cost control, echoed in my head like a demonic chant. The harder I tried to prove her wrong, the more my brain turned to mush. Just as I was about to tear all my hair out, a familiar buzz came from my pocket. It was a voice call invitation from Cherry Bomb on Discord. My custom ringtone. In the quiet cubicle farm, it was deafeningly loud. I jumped and quickly slapped my hand over my pocket, muffling the sound. I instinctively glanced towards the frosted glass door. My heart was hammering against my ribs. Thank God, the door was still closed. Catherine seemed to be in a remote meeting with someone. Her voice was low. I couldn't make out what she was saying. I let out a sigh of relief and pulled out my phone, watching Cherry Bomb's blinking avatar on the screen. It was a voice call, not a text. I hesitated. My finger hovered over the answer button. It felt hot. Time was tight. The proposal wasn't done. But this was her special ringtone. If she was calling instead of texting, maybe it was important. And I had been so confident this afternoon. If I rejected the call now, wouldn't all my bragging be exposed as a lie? What about my male pride? My finger hovered for a few more seconds. Then I finally pressed it down. I quickly brought the phone to my ear. My other hand pretended to be typing on my keyboard. Hello, I whispered. My voice was a little hoarse. Shadow. Cherry Bomb's familiar, soft voice, tinged with worry, came through the earpiece. It sounded closer than her usual voice messages. More intimate. Are you still at the office? I can't hear. Keyboard sounds. Her hearing was sharp. Yeah, still here. I mumbled, just wrapping a few things up. I tried to sound casual. Wrapping up. Cherry Bomb's voice grew tense. You're not going to be late, are you? I'm all ready to go. I even have the potions. Her voice was filled with disappointment and a fragile hope. It hit a soft spot deep inside me, right in my masculine pride. No way. I raised my voice a little, as if to pump myself up. I made a promise. The world could be ending, and I'd still be there on time. Don't you worry, babe. Just a small thing. I'll be done in a minute. My colleague Chris seemed to be startled by my sudden outburst. He turned to look at me, a look of pity in his eyes, as if to say, dude, take it easy. I quickly turned away in embarrassment, covering my mouth with my hand. Babe, you go ahead and log on. I'm going full throttle right now. Wait for my signal. 20 minutes max. I'll be home and online, guaranteed. I said it with absolute certainty, like I was swearing a solemn oath. Really? Cherry Bomb's voice immediately brightened, like a star being lit. I could feel her joy even through the phone. Okay, I'll go get ready then. Don't rush. Be safe on the way home, she urged. I'll wait for you. That last part, I'll wait for you, was soft and sweet, like a feather tickling my ear. I hung up and felt like I had just been injected with a powerful shot of adrenaline. My body was exhausted. My eyes were dry and red, but my mind was instantly supercharged. My girl is waiting for me. I can't let her down. 20 minutes. I have to get this done in 20 minutes. I shot up straight in my chair, took a deep breath. Adrenaline surged. The dynamic cost algorithm that had been tormenting me. Suddenly, a crack appeared in the wall of my mental block. Inspiration flooded in like a broken dam. Clack, clack, clack. I pounded the keyboard so hard it felt like it might shoot sparks. My eyes scanned the complex function formulas and simulation parameters on the screen. Increase the instantaneous throughput limit here. Adjust the cache expiration policy here. My finger flew across the trackpad, manipulating the charts. This way, the reserved resources on the main node can be compressed by another 5%. Optimize the monitoring strategy for the backup nodes. Fail over time. Reduce by 0.5 seconds. My thoughts had never been clearer. Every formula, every parameter, suddenly made perfect sense. It's true what they say. Desperation really does unlock hidden potential. The document scrolled rapidly down the screen. Lines of code and analysis filled the previously blank pages. My heart pounded excitedly in my chest. The minutes ticked by. When I finally finished the last damn parameter formula that had been plaguing me all afternoon, under the main heading of dynamic cost constraints and disaster recovery mechanisms on the final slide, and slammed my finger down on the period key. I glanced at the time in the bottom right corner of the screen. 7:46 p.m. Less than 18 minutes since I had gotten off the phone with Cherry Bomb. Incredible speed. 2 minutes ahead of schedule. A huge sense of accomplishment, mixed with the thrill of rushing off to battle, washed over me. I was so excited I almost jumped up from my chair. But the last shred of my sanity held me back. I forced down my joy. My mouse hovered over the bright red X in the top right corner of the window for a moment. Then, I decisively clicked it. Close. Save file. To hell with Catherine Pierce. To hell with this proposal revision. Right now, I needed to go home, log on, and raid with my girl. I snatched my jacket from the back of my chair, threw it on, grabbed my messenger bag, and shoved my laptop inside, all in one smooth motion. Dave was slurping a cup of instant noodles next to me. He saw me packing up like my ass was on fire, and was so shocked he almost inhaled a noodle. Cough, cough, he choked. When he finally caught his breath, he stared at me wide-eyed. Jason, you finished the proposal? What's with the rush? You skipping town? Not finished. I zipped in my bag. My words came out in a rush. But I have to go home today. It's an emergency. Life or death. No joke. If I was late for the raid with my girl, what if she left me? That was way more important than some proposal. Dave had a you're-insane look on his face. He gestured with his chin towards Catherine's closed office door and whispered, "The Ice Queen hasn't left yet. She didn't say we could go, dude. Don't be an idiot." I don't care. I swung my bag over my shoulder. Nothing is going to stop me. I'm out. See you tomorrow. Leaving a stunned Dave in my wake. I shot out of my cubicle like a cannonball and sprinted towards the elevators. The hallway was mostly empty, just the security guard yawning at the front desk. My footsteps echoed in the empty corridor. My mind was already at home, with my computer and the game, with the sweet Cherry Bomb who was waiting for me. The metal walls of the elevator reflected my disheveled but triumphant image. A smile spread uncontrollably across my face. I hit the button for the P1 parking level. My fingers were already typing a message to Cherry Bomb. "Babe, I'm out. In the car now. Almost home. Wait for me." Just as I sent the message, the elevator dinged. The doors opened. P1. The lighting was dim. The air had the distinct, stale smell of an underground garage. Gasoline, dust, and a damp chill. I strode out. My heart was racing. My steps were light. I almost felt like singing, just as I was about to reach my beat-up old sedan. I glanced over at the reserved parking spot across from me, and my entire body froze. My blood turned to ice. A cold fear shot through me like a bolt of lightning, from the soles of my feet to the top of my head. A chill raced up my spine. Every hair on my body stood on end. My scalp prickled. 7, it was Catherine's car, a black Bentley Continental. Its long, sleek body gleamed under the dim garage lights. A cool, understated predator. It was parked there silently, like a beast lying in wait in the shadows. I stopped in my tracks. My heart was pounding against my ribs. Thump, 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 thump. So loud it felt like it would burst through my chest. My throat was dry. The little bit of triumphant excitement I had felt moments ago was crushed into dust, replaced by a bone-chilling fear. Catherine was leaving work too. Why was she leaving at this time? No, that wasn't the important question. The important question was, when did she come down? Did she see me sprinting out of the office, The thought made my hands and feet go ice cold. I forced myself to stay calm. Don't panic. Maybe it's just her car. Maybe she left a long time ago. This parking garage is huge. She probably didn't see me, right? Right? She didn't see me. She definitely didn't see me. I frantically tried to reassure myself, but my eyes were drawn to the driver's side of the Bentley. The windows were tinted. I couldn't see anything inside. It was like staring into a black hole. I was frozen in place by a wave of terror. I couldn't move. I was trapped. Should I go? What if she was in there? Would this count as desertion? More importantly, running into your boss after hours. Who knew what kind of mood she was in? Remembering what happened to Kevin this morning, I shuddered. Should I stay? What would I do just stand here? My mind was at war with itself. Just then, click, a faint, almost imperceptible sound. But in the silence of the parking garage, it was deafeningly clear. The sound of a car unlocking. It came from the direction of the black Bentley. The sound was small, but it landed in my ears like a thunderclap. Every muscle in my body tensed. My heart leaped into my throat. I stared at the car. My heart was pounding uncontrollably. The next second, the driver's side door of the Bentley swung silently upward, like a black swan gracefully spreading its wing. Then, a long leg, encased in a pair of impeccably tailored gray trousers, emerged, followed by a classic black pointed-toe stiletto. The heel hit the concrete, making a sharp tap that echoed faintly in the empty garage. Catherine Pierce's figure appeared next to the car. She didn't close the door. She just stood there, one hand resting on the raised gull-wing door. Her body was turned slightly away from me. She was looking down at her phone. The dim garage lighting traced the sharp, elegant profile of her face. High cheekbones, a straight nose, a clean, defined jawline. Her entire being radiated a cold, unapproachable distance. The last flicker of hope in my heart was extinguished by this icy presence. She was here, and she hadn't left. What should I do? Pretend I didn't see her and sneak past? Or suck it up and say hello? I felt like I was nailed to the spot. My limbs were stiff. My blood ran cold. My mind raced. Catherine seemed to have finished with her phone. She looked up and casually turned her head. Her gaze swept across the garage like a radar, over the pillars, over the rows of parked cars. And then, inevitably, it landed on me, standing there in the middle of the lane like a deer in the headlights. Our eyes met. No warning. No transition. I didn't even have time to react. Her deep, black eyes, still sharp even in the dim light, calm and placid, locked onto mine, like ice picks, stabbing into my line of sight. The air seemed to freeze. The only sound in the garage was the frantic drumming of my own heart. BZZ. My mind went blank. The proposal, the raid, cherry bomb. Everything was blasted out of my head by this sudden, intense eye contact. My body reacted before my brain did. I instinctively straightened my back, tensing up like a steel plate, a primal fear response. My lips moved. My throat was painfully dry. I tried to force a professional, respectful smile. I tried, and failed. The muscles in my face were too stiff. My smile looked more like a pained grimace. I tried to say, Catherine, but the word got stuck in my throat. All that came out was a short, choke sound, something like I want to disappear on the spot. Catherine's expression didn't change. There was no sign of the professional detachment she usually had when she saw a subordinate. Nor was there any surprise or annoyance at being disturbed. She was as calm as a deep, bottomless, frozen lake. Her gaze lingered on my face for a second or two. Her eyes betrayed no emotion. Then, she gave a slight nod, so small it was almost imperceptible, as if she were completing a mechanical, routine action. Then, she looked away, as if I were just another pillar in the parking garage, not worth any more of her time. Her hand, resting on the car door, gave a gentle push. She gracefully slid into the driver's seat. Her movements were fluid and efficient, not a single wasted motion. The door swung down silently and closed with a soft thud, separating her from me, standing there frozen in the cold. The window tint was dark. I couldn't see inside. I could only watch the sleek, black car start up and glide smoothly away. The tires made a low hum as they rolled over the rough concrete. The taillights cast a sharp, red glow in the dim garage. It turned a corner. accelerated, and disappeared up the ramp at the end of the lane, leaving me alone, standing in the empty, cold, stale air of the underground parking garage. My body was stiff. My back was still ramrod straight. Cold sweat had soaked through my shirt, clinging to my back. Icy. The immense pressure from that brief, intense stare only now began to dissipate. My knees buckled. I stumbled forward and had to grab the hood of a nearby car to keep from falling. Damn! A ragged breath escaped my lips, tinged with a residual tremor of fear. That was terrifying. It felt like I had just taken a trip to the gallows and back. My heart was still racing. My temples throbbed. It took a few moments for my breathing to return to normal. The chill in my body slowly faded. My sweat-soaked shirt felt cold against my skin. I stood up straight and wiped my forehead. It was covered in a fine sheen of cold sweat. As the fear subsided, a wave of intense frustration washed over me. Damn it, I was so scared. What a coward. So pathetic, that look she gave me. Thinking back on it, there was no emotion in it at all. Just a pure, professional calmness. Not even a ripple. She didn't even care that I was there. I was just scaring myself. And I wasted precious time. And I call myself a hero in the game. In reality, I'm just a wimp who gets turned into a jellyfish by one look from my female boss. The huge contrast between my two lives hit my fragile ego hard. Frustration, embarrassment, dejection, a flood of negative emotions washed over me. But the next second, in my pocket, my phone buzzed again. It had to be Cherry Bomb. I quickly pulled it out. It was a Discord message from Cherry Bomb. A voice message. I immediately hit play and held the phone to my ear. Her familiar, sweet voice, tinged with a hint of a pout, instantly filled my ear. Shadow, I'm online. Where are you? Peeking underscore cat. JPG, her soft, sweet tone, was like a cool spring washing over my parched soul. It instantly washed away all the unpleasantness of the last few minutes. My masculine need to protect was reawakened. Coming, babe. I held down the record button and tried to make my voice sound excited, to hide my earlier pathetic state. Just ran into a little snag on my way out of the office. It's fine. I'll handle. I'm on my way home now. Wait for me. I bought you some health restoring bread, an in-game healing item. After sending the message, I took a deep breath. I mentally locked away the image of Catherine and her icy stare and started moving again. My steps were quick. I ran to my beat-up old car, yanked open the door, and jumped in. Ignition. Turned the wheel, slammed on the gas. The engine roared to life. I sped off, toward home. There was only one thought in my mind. Faster, faster. My girl is waiting for me. I floored it the whole way home. I drove my beat-up old sedan like it was a race car, weaving through traffic, overtaking whenever I could. My mind was consumed by a single thought. Faster, faster, faster. Even the red light countdowns felt 10 times slower than usual. My right hand gripped the steering wheel. My left hand rested restlessly on the gear shift. My fingers drummed against the smooth plastic. My heart was racing with anticipation and a strange excitement. It was as if only by escaping into the game could I reclaim the pride and freedom that reality had beaten out of me, especially the memory of Catherine's icy stare. Whenever it flashed in my mind, I would instinctively sit up straighter, as if trying to expel the pathetic version of myself from my own body. What's the rush? I muttered to myself, trying to pump myself up. In the game, I'm the king. Tonight, I'm getting my girl a legendary drop. My spirits lifted a little. Finally, I made a sharp turn and pulled into my apartment complex. I found a spot in a remote corner and parked. The car bounced hard as it went over the curb. I didn't care. Engine off, keys out. I grabbed my laptop bag from the passenger seat and jumped out of the car. I sprinted into the building. The elevator was waiting on the ground floor. The doors dinged open. I jumped in and frantically jabbed the button for my floor. During the brief ascent, I was already digging the keys out of my pocket. The cold metal pricked my fingertips, but my heart was on fire. Clang! The key slid into the lock. A quick twist. The door opened. I was hit by the familiar, slightly stuffy air of my apartment, mixed with the subtle scent of old takeout containers and the distinct aroma of a single guy. I didn't bother with the lights or my shoes. I kicked them off and ran barefoot across the floor towards the living room. My prized gaming rig was pulsing with a soft blue standby light. The large monitor next to it waited silently. The dark room was bathed in this faint glow. The gaming chair was cold. I threw myself into it. The leather groaned softly. I slammed the power button. The case fans roared to life. A low hum broke the silence of the room. The monitor flickered on. The familiar system boot screen glowed a cool blue. I tossed my bag on the floor. My keyboard and mouse were ready. I went into autopilot. My left hand on the power button. My right hand already on the mouse. My eyes glued to the screen. Logged into Windows. Launched the game client. Typed in my username and password in one fluid motion. The screen changed. The grand, epic login screen of the game filled my vision. I quickly found my server, Ashenfall. The moment my mouse clicked, my heart skipped a beat. Enter. Shadow Strike. Login. A pleasant system chime sounded. My archer, Shadow Strike, materialized before a mountain range engulfed in purple flames. This was the entrance to tonight's raid, the Molten Core. The sounds of the game flooded my ears. The clash of skills mixed with the shouts of other players. LFG. Need one more. Top tier DPS. Need a healer. Skilled players only. Farming group. Legendaries will be distributed based on contribution. I ignored them and immediately opened my friends list. My fingers were trembling slightly. I quickly typed Cherry Bomb into the search bar. My mouse hovered over the enter key. Just as I was about to click, ding! A clear notification sound chimed in my headset. An invitation popped up in the middle of my screen. It was flashing with a pink, heart-themed border. Impossible to miss. Cherry Bomb has invited you to join their party. Except, next to it was a cute, chibi version of her character's avatar. Small, adorable, and below it, the party description. Shadow's exclusive raid party. No scrubs allowed. The heavy weight that had been sitting in my chest since I left work. Thud. Finally lifted, and was replaced by a warm, sweet feeling. All the stress, the frustration, the fear of Catherine Pierce. It all melted away in the face of this exclusive party invitation and that little heart emoji. A smile spread across my face. I happily clicked accept. Success! You have joined Cherry Bomb's party. My screen flashed. The scene changed instantly. My character, Shadow Strike, appeared at the entrance of a crimson canyon, bubbling with lava. Standing next to me was a small, delicate figure. She was wearing the latest cosmetic set from the in-game store, the Cherry Blossom Oath. Layers of pale, pink fabric, adorned with sparkling crystals, against the hellish dark red background of the molten landscape. She looked refreshingly bright. It was Cherry Bomb. Her sweet name floated above her head. Next to it was a prominent badge, a design of a crossed bow and staff, with the words Soulmates inscribed on it, the in-game symbol of a confirmed relationship. When she saw me appear, her character immediately turned around. A small speech bubble popped up above her head. Greater than over equal to egoless and over equal to. You're here, Shadow. I've been waiting for you. At the same time, her happy, lilting voice came through my headset. Shadow. It was enough to make my bones melt. Yep, I'm here, babe, I replied with a grin. I moved my archer character and naturally walked over to her side. I triggered one of the built-in couple emotes. Shadow Strike reached out and gently put his arm around Cherry Bomb's shoulder. Then he ruffled her hair. It was a preset animation, but in this atmosphere, it felt surprisingly heartwarming. Did you run into some trouble on the way home? Cherry Bomb's voice came through, tinged with concern. Was it serious? A warmth spread through my chest, mixed with a little guilt. I downplayed it. Nah, it was nothing, just ran into some crazy lady driver. Oops, slip of the tongue. I quickly corrected myself. Road hog. Yeah, cut me off in traffic. Wasted a few minutes of my time. God, if it wasn't for my amazing driving skills. I deliberately exaggerated my tone, feigning indignation. Okay. As long as you're safe, Cherry Bomb soothed me. Let's get started, shall we? Let's do it. I was all fired up, full of bravado. Let's go kill some bosses. My tone reverted to the carefree, cocky attitude I had in the game. Gotta get my girl her legendary gear. Party formed. I clicked on the raid entrance. Selected the Molten Core, Heroic Mode. Confirm. The loading screen appeared. My and Cherry Bomb's characters were enveloped in a teleportation light. The scene changed. and we were instantly transported to the depths of a scorching lava cave. Bizarrely shaped fire elementals roared around us. The heat was palpable, and in my headset, the epic battle music swelled to a crescendo. The air on the screen shimmered with heat. Lava bubbled and popped in massive molten pools. A colossal monster, formed from flowing magma and burning rock, let out a deafening roar. Molten Colossus, heart of the forge, the final boss. It raised a giant fist of solidified lava, bringing it crashing down toward me with a blast of scorching air. The massive shadow of the rock loomed over my character. Whoa! My fingers were a blur across the keyboard. WA space. Tap, tap, tap. My character Shadow Strike executed a flawless backflip roll into a sideways dodge. The movement was as smooth as water. Boom! The boss's lava fist smashed into the spot where I had been standing. The ground cracked, and a wave of searing heat erupted, singeing the heels of my character's boots. It was a close call. Nice one. Cherry Bomb's praise rang through my headset, laced with a laugh. Great dodge, babe. At the same time, a pure, gentle beam of green healing light landed precisely on my head, instantly topping off my health bar. Heh, I laughed, feeling the adrenaline surge. That was nothing. Watch a man do something even cooler. I was talking big, but my eyes were glued to the screen. The boss was entering its berserk phase. Its massive body began to tremble, and the lava flowing over it glowed with an intense, blinding light. The temperature in the air skyrocketed. This was the wind-up for its ultimate ability, Earthseer Flames, an area of effect attack that would cover half the arena, stunning and applying a damage-over-time burn. Babe, I yelled into the voice chat. Get your group cleanse ready. My hands moved even faster. I whipped my mouse around, scanning the arena for an escape route. See that raised rock pillar at my feet? Stick close to me. We have to jump on it. It's the only safe spot. 3, 2, 1. Jump. As I gave a command, my character shot forward like an arrow. Using a massive red-hot stalagmite in the center of the arena, I executed 2 consecutive dash jumps, moving so fast I was just a blur. I landed perfectly on a tiny black rock platform at the edge of the arena, a spot almost completely hidden by spewing lava. It was the blind spot I had predicted. Cherry Bomb let out a short, nervous yelp. She was a half-second too slow. Her healer class was less mobile, and her jump was short. She was going to land just shy of the platform, directly in the path of the deadly lava erupting from below. My heart clenched. In a split second, I slammed the hotkey for a skill I had ready. Binding shot. Thwip, an arrow trailing green light shot out like lightning. Just as Cherry Bomb was about to land, the arrow struck the scorched ground beneath her. Green thorns erupted from the earth like a mass of tough vines and instantly wrapped around her ankles. Gently but firmly, they pulled upward and swung her through the air. Cherry Bomb's character let out a cry, like a big, pink ragdoll, as the vines dragged her onto the platform right beside me. Almost simultaneously, whoosh! A tidal wave of scorching air and molten rock swept across the entire center of the arena. The spot where she had been a moment ago was completely engulfed in a sea of fire. Only the small platform we stood on remained, an isolated island in a storm of destruction. Untouched, it was unbelievably close. My scalp tingled with a thrill. Adrenaline was maxed out. It was awesome. You okay, babe? I asked immediately, my voice a little high with excitement. I'm okay. Cherry Bomb's voice was still trembling. That was terrifying. I thought I was a goner. She sounded shaken, but relieved. What's there to be afraid of when I'm here? I declared, full of bravado. See that? That's how a master archer carries his girl. Was that cool or what? So cool, she answered instantly, her voice filled with admiration and sweetness. Shadow, you're the best. My hero. She even made a little moi sound effect, like an in-game kiss emote. It went straight to my head. I let out a goofy laugh. Easy, easy. Just then, the boss, enraged, let out a terrifying roar. Its entire body glowed, signaling the next phase. Its aggro was locked onto me. The giant lava arm lifted again. Babe, watch out. It's about to use Meteor. I immediately snapped back to focus. See its arm lifting, move to my left front, 3 paces. We need to spread out rhythmically. Dodge. The second its fist hits the ground, its core will be exposed. Wait for my armor break, arrow marker. Hit it there. Got it. Following you. Cherry Bomb's voice was tense now, focused on the fight. What followed was a dance on the edge of a razor blade. The boss's frenzied attack pattern began. Massive, flaming meteors rained down from the sky, trailing long, fiery tails. Boom, boom, boom. The shockwaves from the impacts sent lava flying everywhere. The arena became a fiery hellscape. Cherry Bomb and I were like 2 leaves in a hurricane, desperately moving around our tiny platform. My fingers were a frantic blur on the keyboard, my eyes locked on every pixel of the screen. Predict, slide, roll, jump. Every move was a hair's breadth from disaster. One mistake, and we'd be hit by a meteor or consumed by the splash damage. There was no room to breathe. Left 45 degrees, dodge, I commanded, directing myself while also calling out for her. Babe, heal. Don't worry about me. Watch the fire. On yourself. Dispel. Now, get that burn off. Cherry Bomb's healing spells landed perfectly. Green ribbons of light danced through the flames. The spell Big Heal move. She was slower, but with my precise callouts, she managed to avoid taking any major hits. Perfect teamwork. The boss's health bar steadily dropped under our coordinated assault. 10%, 8%, 5%. Victory was in sight. Now, as the boss raised its arm again for another deadly combo, the unstable, pulsating diamond-shaped core in its chest was exposed. A bright red target circle instantly appeared in my view. Time seemed to slow down. The screen was filled with the blinding light of lava. The trajectory of the boss's attack, the half-second window of vulnerability, it was all crystal clear. This was it. Bait. I roar, my throat raw. Armor break marker is up. All your burst now. Hit it. With that earth-shattering yell, my fingers, which had been coiled like a spring, struck the hotkeys 1, 2, and 3 like a bolt of lightning. On the screen, Shadow Strike drew his bow to its absolute limit. A blinding, ice-blue light erupted from his body. The tip of his arrow crackled with a terrifying, frosty energy. This was my ultimate damage combo. Frost Arrow Volley, Weak Point Insight, Glacial Terminus. 3 shots in one. Not 3 arrows, but 3 bolts of light, each shimmering with a different deadly energy, fired from my bowstring like lightning. The first arrow tore through the air, a glint of pure, piercing cold. It hit the outer edge of the boss's spinning lava core with a sharp crack. A large golden armor break, icon, shaped like an icy arrowhead, instantly appeared. Defense shattered. Core exposed. Weakness marked. The second arrow followed, faster than lightning. A bolt of ethereal blue light wreathed in freezing mist. It overtook the first arrow and struck the very center of the marker. Thump! The molten colossus let out a deafening, agonized howl. The lava armor around its core shattered like glass, spiderwebbing with cracks. The ice-blue energy slithered into the gaps like a venomous snake, corroding it from within. The final arrow, Glacial Terminus. At the very instant the boss's core was exposed, cracked, and ravaged by frost, this final, massive arrow, larger than the others, spiraled with arcane glyphs and pulsing with terrifying ice magic, appeared as if from nowhere. The judgment of a death god. It slammed into the vulnerable heart of the core, a weakness perfectly opened by the first 2 shots. For a moment, time stopped. The arrow vanished inside. There was no immediate explosion. Only a blinding, ice-blue light, like a newborn sun, erupting from deep within the molten colossus's chest. Boom! A massive shock wave of pure ice crystals expanded outward from the point of impact, freezing, annihilating, and consuming everything in its path. The boss's enormous, molten body let out a final, indescribable shriek of despair. Starting from the exploding core, the absolute cold spread visibly across its body, freezing the flowing lava solid. Instantly, like a tower of blocks, the massive, frost-covered stone body collapsed, crashing to the ground and shattering into countless pieces of steaming, ice-rimed rock. A huge, golden victory banner, accompanied by triumphant system music, filled the screen. We had won. It was incredible. An unparalleled sense of exhilaration washed over me. The perfect execution of my combo replayed in my mind. That final 3-arrow shot was a stroke of genius. It was so damn cool. We won! I yelled, leaping out of my gaming chair. I punched the air with a triumphant fist. An ecstatic howl escaped my lips. All the pent-up frustration from the entire day, all the humiliation, was completely obliterated by this single moment of overwhelming achievement. This was where I belonged. Shadow, Cherry Bomb's joyful cheer came through my headset at the same time. We did it! We did it! You were amazing! My hero is the best. The loot window popped up. A flash of gold. Holy crap! We got a drop! We got a drop! My eyes locked on the top item in the list. A brilliant, shimmering, orange-gold font. Moltung Godbow. Embrace of the Inferno. Legendary. The ultimate weapon for an archer. Insane stats. An unbelievably cool design. It was priceless on the auction house. A true legendary item. And it came with an ultra-rare special effect. Heart of Cinder, which massively increased damage against burning targets. It was tailor-made for me. Babe, look. My voice cracked with excitement. The orange bow. It's a legendary. My eyes were practically glowing. Awesome. This was so awesome. Who cares about getting yelled at work? Who cares about all-night proposal revisions? Who cares about being frozen by the Ice Queen's death stare? I just got a legendary drop in a game, and my girl was worshiping me. This was the life. Wow, it's real. Cherry Bomb was just as thrilled. Congratulations, babe. Take it. It's perfect for you. Her voice was giddy. Without hesitation, she passed on the roll. The item was mine. Thanks, sweetheart, I said, happily clicking loot. On the screen, the shimmering Godbow equipped itself to Shadow Strike's back. A flowing lava effect coiled around it. It looked incredible. My sense of accomplishment was through the roof. I was on cloud 9. All the previous frustration and bitterness were gone. I was so high on the wind, I didn't know which way was up. So what do you think, babe? I asked, my tone dripping with swagger. Did I deliver or what? I told you, stick with me, and the legendary gear will just roll in. Cherry Bomb played along perfectly, her voice sweet and full of adoration. Shadow is the best in the world. I'm so happy. She even triggered an animation of her character jumping up and down, throwing confetti. Of course, I was getting carried away now, my ego inflated to the size of a blimp. This little raid is nothing. I'm telling you, with my skills, my game sense. There are many players out there who can touch me. That Ice Queen. Oops, I mean that. My boss. I caught myself just in time. Yeah, my boss. The one who acts like she owns the world and pushes me around all day. That's only because she hasn't seen me in my element. I puffed out my chest, talking a mile a minute. If she ever dared to step into this game and ran into Shadow Strike, I'd show her whose. Before I could finish my threat, through my headset from Cherry Bomb's side came a sudden, crystal clear, and very distinctive sound. Click, clack, click. The sound was faint, but the rhythm was sharp and unmistakable. It was the sound of crisp, sharp high heels on a hard, polished floor. It cut through the headset with perfect clarity. Once, twice. It felt like it was tapping directly on my nerves. Instantly, I froze. The blood pumping through my veins turned to ice. My breath caught in my throat. My mouth hung open, the rest of my boast trapped inside. I couldn't get a single word out. I felt like I had been turned to stone. Paralyzed. A cold sweat erupted across my entire body. A frigid chill shot from the base of my spine to the top of my head. Every hair on my body stood on end. That sound of high heels. No, it can't be. It has to be a coincidence, right? Lots of women wear high heels. That sound, it's probably not unique, right? Just as my mind was reeling from the shock, just as I was desperately trying to rationalize it away. Through the headset, Cherry Bomb's voice faltered for a moment. Then, it sounded like she covered her microphone, but I could still faintly hear her soft, familiar breathing. And then, a hushed, slightly rushed voice drifted through, muffled. Oh, right, got it. Just put the documents on my desk. I'll be right. It was just 2 short phrases, and then silence, as if someone had opened a door and spoken to her. Her tone, her voice was incredibly cool. Her words were crisp. The end of each phrase had a slight downward inflection. It carried a sense of unquestionable authority and distance. It was a world away from the soft, sweet voice I was used to hearing. It was completely different. In that single instant, it felt like all the blood had been drained from my body. A cold numbness spread from my fingertips to my limbs. My hand, gripping the mouse, was frozen. My heart felt like it had been seized by an invisible hand. It stopped beating. There was only one thought screaming in my mind. That voice, those footsteps, and that natural, authoritative tone she used to give an order. No, it's impossible. Absolutely impossible. That voice. What? Why does it sound so much like Catherine Pierce, the Ice Queen boss who chews me out in the real world? My director? A roaring sound filled my ears, like a flashbang had gone off next to my head. My brain throbbed. My heart hammered against my ribs, a chaotic, frantic rhythm that felt like it would break free. My throat was as dry as if I'd swallowed a handful of sand. I couldn't make a sound. My right hand, still gripping the mouse, was clenched so tight my knuckles were white. The cold plastic dug into my palm, a faint grounding pain. I stared at the cute, pink avatar of Cherry Bomb on my screen, the Soulmate's badge still shimmering beside it. The triumphant music of the lava cave was still playing. The dazzling golden light effects, my character's celebratory emote, the excited chatter of other players scrolling in the world channel. Everything was now shrouded in a thick, unbelievable fog of absurdity. Through my headset, that brief, muffled, and cool voice replayed in my mind like a demonic whisper. With every loop, my body trembled. Was I hearing things? Was it just a coincidence? After all, voice chat, even with the best equipment, can distort a person's voice. And Cherry Bomb always spoke in a deliberately soft tone. Could have been her roommate or a family member, but that icy, commanding tone. It was the polar opposite of her usual playful self. And that familiar, rhythmic click-clack of high heels. It was identical to the sound I'd heard countless times in the office, in the parking garage. Could someone in the world really replicate Catherine Pierce's signature walk so perfectly? It seemed impossible. My mind was a chaotic, boiling mess. In the game, Cherry Bomb's character was still standing by the corpse of the molten colossus, unmoving. A small speech bubble appeared above her head. "Shadow, did you disconnect?" Her voice came through my headset at the same time, back to that familiar, soft tone, laced with genuine concern. "Shadow, what's wrong? You suddenly went quiet. Is your internet lagging?" Hearing her usual voice only deepened the sense of bizarre reality. How was I supposed to answer? Should I just ask, "Cherry, why did you suddenly sound exactly like my boss?" Was I insane? What if it was just a coincidence? It would be incredibly awkward and completely out of the blue. But if I didn't ask, the sound of her voice and those footsteps were like ghosts haunting my mind, clawing at my sanity. My throat felt like it had been scraped raw. I managed a painful swallow, trying to moisten it. Finally, I squeezed out a raspy sound. No, I'm good. I thought. I heard someone else there for a second. I asked, trying to sound casual. A light, cheerful laugh came through the headset. "Oh, that was just my roommate. She just got home from work." Oh, the tension in my shoulders eased slightly. But a second later, she added, "She works in tech, too. Super serious. Always has a scowl on her face. She's so intimidating." My heart leaped back into my throat. Is that so? I managed my voice weak. "Shadow, let's go for the next boss, okay?" she suggested, her enthusiasm returning. "Sure," I replied mechanically, my mind a million miles away. For the rest of the night, I was completely out of it. I kept messing up, causing our party to wipe several times. "Shadow, are you feeling okay tonight?" Cherry Bomb asked, her voice laced with worry. "Just really tired, I guess," I said, forcing a laugh. "Then you should get some rest. We can play another time," she said, ever considerate. Just before we logged off, she asked suddenly, "By the way, Shadow, when's your company retreat?" "Next Friday." I answered automatically, then a jolt of alarm went through me. "How did you know my company was having a retreat?" There were a few seconds of silence on her end. "You mentioned it before, silly," she said with a laugh. "Don't you remember?" "Oh," I scratched my head. I had no memory of telling her that. That night, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. That voice, those footsteps, they were too similar. But she said it was her roommate. It had to be a coincidence, right? The day of the retreat arrived. The company had booked a resort in the mountains outside the city. I walked into the main hall with dark circles under my eyes, another sleepless night behind me. "Jason," my colleague Dave called out, waving me over. "Hurry up, we're getting into groups." I trudged over. Suddenly, a hush fell over the hall. Click, clack, click. That familiar sound echoed from behind me. I stiffened, then slowly turned around. Catherine was standing there in a casual outfit, her hair down. She looked softer than usual, but her eyes were still as sharp as daggers. "Morning, Catherine," my colleagues chorused. She gave a slight nod, her gaze sweeping over the crowd and pausing on me for a fraction of a second. I quickly looked down at the floor. "This is a retreat. Everyone, please relax," she said, a rare attempt at casual conversation. The first activity was an icebreaker. "All right, everyone, take out your phones and show us the social media profile picture that best represents you," the event host announced cheerfully. My hand shook, and I almost dropped my phone. What kind of nightmare game was this? I reluctantly unlocked my phone, praying I wouldn't accidentally open the wrong app. "Jason, you're up," the host called my name. With a deep breath, I held up my phone, displaying my Discord profile picture, a grinning Shiba Inu. My colleagues chuckled. "Okay, next up." Just as I was about to breathe a sigh of relief, a voice cut through the air. "Wait." It was Catherine's cool, crisp voice. She walked slowly toward me, her eyes fixed on my phone. "What's that icon in the bottom right corner?" I looked down and my blood ran cold. It was the icon for Ethereum Chronicles, and it had a notification badge on it. From Cherry Bomb. That's just," I stammered. "A game." Catherine raised an eyebrow. "What game?" "Just some random mobile game." I tried to play it off. She suddenly held out her hand. "Do you mind if I take a look?" I was frozen. Show the Ice Queen my chat history with my online girlfriend? I'd rather die. But under her intense, unwavering gaze, I shakily handed her my phone. She took it and tapped on the game icon. My account, Shadow Strike, logged in automatically. The chat window popped up with the latest message. "Cherry Bomb. Morning, babe. Sleep well. Timestamp. 3 minutes ago." My vision went dark. It was over. It was all over. The air thickened. I could feel the curious stares of every single one of my colleagues burning into me. Catherine stared at the phone screen, her expression unreadable. After a long moment, she let out a soft chuckle. "Shadow Strike." My scalp prickled with dread. "It's a good name." She handed the phone back to me and walked away. I stood there, stunned, unable to believe she had just let it go. The rest of the retreat was torture. I kept sneaking glances at Catherine, but she acted as if nothing had happened. That evening, during the group dinner, I made an excuse about feeling unwell and slipped away. Back in my room, I collapsed onto the bed and sent a message to Cherry Bomb. "Babe, I almost died of embarrassment today." She replied instantly. "What happened, babe?" I hesitated, then decided to tell her what had happened. "My boss saw you call me babe. It was so awkward." I sent the message. On the other end, there was sudden silence. I waited for 10 minutes. No reply. Just as I was starting to wonder what was wrong, my doorbell rang. "Who is it?" I mumbled, running a hand through my hair as I went to open the door. Standing outside, arms crossed, was Catherine Pierce. I turned to stone. Caught Catherine. She walked straight past me into the room and closed the door behind her. "Babe." It was her familiar, cool voice, but now it was laced with a playful, teasing tone. My knees went weak. I nearly fell to the floor. What are you saying?" She pulled out her own phone and opened an app. On the screen was the game profile for Cherry Bomb. My world shattered. "Surprised?" Catherine asked, an eyebrow arched. My mouth hung open, but no words came out. "The man who calls me babe every night acts like he's seen a ghost whenever he sees me during the day," she said with a light laugh. My face burned with a heat that had nothing to do with embarrassment and everything to do with something else. I'm so sorry, Catherine. I didn't know it was you." She took a step closer. "You know now," she said, her voice low. "Still want to run away?" I was backed against the wall, with nowhere to go. She reached up, her fingertips lightly tracing the tense line of my jaw. "Your revised proposal," she said softly. "It's approved." My eyes widened. "You're a force to be reckoned with in the game," she continued, her voice softening even more. "You should have that same confidence in real life." My heart was pounding like a drum. "Catherine, you're..." What did you just call me? She asked, her eyes narrowing playfully. I swallowed hard, then took a chance. Cherry. She smiled, a genuine, radiant smile that I had never seen before. It transformed her entire face, melting away the ice. There you go.